Pred nama je još jedan Jazeera Svijet. Moje ime je Azra Hadžić. Ovo su priče koje izdvajamo. Kolika je Mala Palestina u Chicagu i zašto pripadnici te zajednice neće glasati za Kamalu Harris? Više od 600.000 djece mlađe od 10 godina u Gazi trebalo bi dobiti vakcinu protiv dječje paralize, ali za neke ona dolazi prekasno. Kakve propise uvode Brazil i Filipini kada je riječ o migrantskoj politici? Područje Chicaga dom je najveće palestinske dijaspore u SAD-u. Prisustvo više od 85.000 Palestinaca dovelo je do toga da se mjesto Bridgeview nazove Mala Palestina. Chicago je također bio domaćin Demokratske nacionalne konvencije ove godine, te je za mnoge u zajednici to bila prilika da organiziraju protestni marš i iznesu zahtjeve Kamali Harris, da se prestane slati oružje u Izrael te da ona učini više kako bi se okončao genocid u Gazi. Članovi palestinske zajednice kažu kako se osjećaju izdanim od stranke koju su oduvijek podržavali. U nastavku priča Al Jazeera Plus.
13-year-old Khalil from Gaza just landed in Chicago to receive medical treatment. He lost both legs to Israeli bombing in April and was welcomed by members of the biggest Palestinian community in the US. Tens of thousands of Palestinians call this area home. The city of Chicago is also about to host the Democratic National Convention. As the US continues to arm Israel for its assault on Gaza, many from this community feel betrayed by the party they've historically supported.
The entire world is watching. They're going to see the biggest protest for Palestinian rights ever in the history of Chicago.
As the death toll in Gaza rises to over 40,000 killed, we talk to organizers and community members in Chicago's Little Palestine about their message to the Democratic Party and how they might vote this November. We met up with Palestinian-American organizer Nida Sahouri. In the community, she's known as Khalto Nida, or Aunt Nida, and she's seen at all the protests.
What's the alternative? The alternative is just to sit home and just do nothing and just criticize. I believe that if you want to change something, you have to change it with your hands.
In May, she ripped up a permit application to protest at the DNC after city police raided an encampment at DePaul University.
We're gonna be protesting no matter what. Thank you.
Nidat says that in the 40 years she's lived in Chicago, she's witnessed the Palestinian community grow significantly.
So you just feel like you're in Palestine. That's why it's called Little Palestine. You feel like you're in the West Bank. When my mom came and visited me, the first time she's like, oh, it feels like you're in Ramallah. So you see the culture, you see the stores with Arabic names.
We met with her at her house, which was filled with artifacts from her homeland.
Tattoos is very important for Palestinians because every city had its own colors and its own embroidery. So traditionally it was for dresses, for women. And now they're just making a lot of different things with it. Now Israel is trying to steal the embroidery. If you go there, they claim it. They're claiming our embroidery now, and that's why we want to try to make sure that we keep it for us.
Nida is the Chicago Chair for American Muslims for Palestine, an organization that teaches people about Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories. She says that while her focus is on a ceasefire in Gaza, the situation is also dire in the West Bank, where her family is from.
Settlers in the West Bank are attacking day in and day out. I just came back. It's bad. Like, it's not safe. Settlers and soldiers can attack any village they want.
Palestinian and Arab American voters have historically voted Democrat, but the party has lost support for arming Israel's war on Gaza.
Democrats, whether it's Biden or Harris, Democrats failed us big times. They dehumanized us. We are demanding that we are looked at as humans.
Palestinian migration to Chicago began in the 1890s, during a time of broader migration from the Middle East to the US. Most of the early Palestinian immigrants were men who would come to work in the US, traveling back and forth between Chicago and Palestine. But when that became more difficult in the 1930s and 40s, they started buying property and opening shops. After the 1948 Nakba, where Zionist militias forced over 750,000 Palestinians from their homes, the families of the men who had come to Chicago made their way to the US too.
When I grew up in the 70s and 80s, the vast majority of the Palestinian community lived in southwest Chicago proper.
Hatem Abu Daya is an organizer with the U.S. Palestinian Community Network.
But in the last 20 years or so, they've really all moved out to the southwest suburbs.
Hatem says the Palestinian community moved to the suburb of Bridgeview, Illinois, and created Little Palestine.
We were able to buy a lot of property, be able to buy businesses, able to buy homes, establish like a real hub here.
Now, around 85,000 Palestinians are estimated to live in the Chicago metro area, the largest Palestinian community in the country. Hatem is also a spokesperson for the Coalition to March on the DNC, an affiliation of at least 150 organizations planning to protest Israel's ongoing genocide.
We have three main demands. One is end US aid to Israel, stop the genocide, and stand with and free Palestine. Those are the broad demands. But the goals are for the world to see that Palestine has enormous support.
Even though Joe Biden is no longer the Democratic candidate, the coalition says it has the same demands for Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris is a part of this administration. She's in the leadership of the administration. These policies are her policies. And we haven't seen anything or heard anything from her to believe that she's going to have a different position.
Hatem says while some may fear a second Trump presidency, his focus is on the DNC because Democrats are the ones in power.
If the Republicans were in party and Trump was already the president and this genocide was going on, then that would have been the event of the season. And the tens of thousands would have been going there. But the reason they're here is because the Democrats are in power, because Biden is the one who's complicit, and Kamala Harris and Blinken, all of the top Democrats in this country are responsible. They are complicit in the genocide, they have blood on their hands, and they're the ones that allow it to happen.
But this isn't the first time anti-war demonstrators have protested a DNC hosted in Chicago. In 1968, an estimated 10,000 people protested the Vietnam War at the convention. Chicago police injured and arrested hundreds. While protesters were being rounded up by the police, the crowds chanted, "The whole world is watching."
This is the event of the season. The entire world is watching. They're going to see the biggest protest for Palestinian rights ever in the history of Chicago.
A week before the 2024 DNC, we found this art and rhythm build where organizers were practicing chants and building drums.
Can you tell us what you're doing here today?
Creating ruckus for the DNC.
So we came together tonight to make instruments, decorate them, and then, get ready to bring the rhythm with our contingent.
Well, the truth is, the Democrats have always sold themselves as, the party of the working class, and they never have represented us. We know Kamala isn't going to represent the working class. She's proven it with her track record. So just because it's a brown face in a high place, it doesn't mean anything to us.
I've seen too many dead children, broken up families to ever think about checking a box near the Democratic Party on the ballot.
Corporate Democrats or corporate Republicans are one and the same. They are both funded by AIPAC lobbies, corporations. They really don't represent the American voice.
We'll continue to march, organize, and raise hell until we get an arms embargo and a permanent ceasefire.
Even those within the Democratic Party have criticized the administration.
The Biden administration absolutely let us down by unconditionally supporting Israel's genocide.
Abdel Nasser Rashid is Illinois' first ever Palestinian American state representative. He grew up in Little Palestine.
What you see in Little Palestine is a real community cohesion. People know each other, it is tight-knit, people care about each other, people look out for each other.
Abdel Nasser says he believes most Americans want the U.S. to act differently.
The Biden administration has enacted policies that go against what the average American wants. The average American wants us to use our tax dollars to provide better health care, to provide affordable housing, to tackle climate change, not to send more bombs, more US-made weapons to Israel that then get dropped on civilians throughout Gaza.
but he says that the convention and a new candidate might be an opportunity for change.
I think the fact that President Biden withdrew from the race and now Vice President Harris is the Democratic nominee gives us an opening, gives her an opening to truly engage with young people, with people of color, with progressives across the country, not to mention, of course, the Arab and Muslim community who want to see a transformational change, a fundamental break from the policies of our government that have supported genocide.
For the residents of Little Palestine, the first step a Kamala Harris administration must take is straightforward.
To start with, we need to stop funding the genocide. We need to cease fire and we need to feed the people in Gaza.
But organizers say they're seeing a change in how Israel's occupation of Palestinians is viewed by the world.
People recognize it's not just an issue of stop killing Palestinians, it's end the occupation and end the colonization and allow Palestinians to return to their homes. And that's the only way that you can bring peace to the entire region.
U Gazi se provodi kampanja vakcinacije djece protiv dječje paralize. Ujedinjeni narodi se nadaju da će imunizirati 640.000 mlađih od 10 godina. Roditeljima u Gazi laknulo je zbog ovog procesa, ali kažu samo žele da se rat završi.
والأمراض الجلدية هذه منتشرة بشكل مش طبيعي بين الأطفال بين الخيام بين النازحين وأنا والله نازحة من خان يونس نزحت وهلقيت العملية العسكرية طلعوا من خان يونس وهنا بدي أرجع على خان يونس إن شاء الله يا رب نضلنا في ديارنا ما نطلع ولا ننزل. الحمد لله أنا سعيدة إني طعمت أطفالي لضد شلل الأطفال عشان ما يصيبهمش أي مكروه لقدام إن شاء الله. وإن شاء الله يا رب كل أطفال غزة يطعموا غير تطعيم شلل الأطفال يمرقونا تطعيمات ثانية غير تطعيم شلل الأطفال يمرقونا تطعيمات ثانية. ولدت الطفلة هذه يعني ولدتها قول 3 أو أقل يعني كانت ضعيفة لأنه كان فيش لا تغذية ولا حاجة بالنسبة لأم. وهلقيت أنا برضع كمان لا في تغذية ولا إشي كل إشي الأسعار غالية. لما ولدت الطفلة هذه من أنا وأنا حامل فيها وهذا وكنت خايفة إن ممكن قلت في الحرب لا مستحيل قلت في الحرب. فإنه لا ولدت في الحرب وهي عاشت في الحرب كمان. ولدتها في الحرب كنت خايفة يعني معقول أطعمها الشهر الأسبوع الشهرين طب ال3 شهور طب ال4 شهور طب وين أروح أطعم. فأنا خفت أولها إنه ممكن هل هذا مضر التطعيم ولا مش مضر. فقلت لا شجعت إنه يعني بسمع حالات إنه الأطفال هذول يعني فيش ممكن يصير لهم شلل. قلت لا إنه آخده أحسن من يصير لقدام مضاعفات للأطفال هذول إنه فيش يعني يقدروا يمشوا. إحنا بالنسبة للتطعيمات إحنا مرقوا التطعيمات بالنسبة لنا إحنا بدنا يوقفوا الحرب يوقفوا لنا الحرب. يعني أنا كل ما بنزح وبطلع هذه أكبر هم بالنسبة لنا بالنسبة للي عنده أطفال كمان. يعني أنا بنزح وبطلع بكون هاك الهم يعني أحسن لسه الموت بنتمناه أحسن من نقعد ننزح من منطقة لمنطقة من منطقة لمنطقة. يعني صرت أنا نازحة 7 مرات.
Za jednogodišnjaka iz izbjegličkog kampa Al-Zavajda vakcinacija dolazi prekasno, jer je on već obolio od dječje paralize. Prema podacima Svjetske zdravstvene organizacije, to je prvi slučaj te bolesti u Gazi u 25 godina. Hind Hudari je razgovarala s roditeljima dječaka koji je djelomično paraliziran.
We're currently here in Zawaida where Abdurrahman Abu Jidian lives along with his family here. They were forced to evacuate from the northern parts of Deir al-Balah. This is their tent and this is where they lived. Abdurrahman is the first recorded polio case across the Gaza Strip. Today is his birthday. Today he should have took his first steps. But unfortunately, due to polio, he is unable to walk. His father told us that he was supposed to take his injection on the October 7th, but unfortunately the war happened and he never got his vaccines.
تقريبا بطل يتحرك وبطل يقعد وبطل يزحف. عبد الرحمن كان نشيط وكان يتحرك ويمارس كل شيء كأي طفل عادي. فجأة لقيته بطل يتحرك وصار معه صفرة وسخونة مستمرة. توجهت فيه لمستشفى الشهداء الأقصى ضلوا على علاجات مستمرة لمدة شهر بعدين قرروا ياخذوا منه عينة على الأردن. حزينة إنه ابني حيضل هيك ممكن يتأثر إشي فيه فيش علاج في غزة مسكر المعبر لمتى يضلوا زي هيك.
المية غير صحية مواد التنظيف ما قلناش إياها اليهود لا في شامبو لا صابونة لا بشوا والمية غير معقمة المية مش طاهرة
إنه بعد فترة هل بتحسن مع التطعيم وهيك؟
At least 640,000 Palestinian children will start receiving the polio vaccine. However, Abdurrahman won't be able to get his treatment because he's unable to travel abroad, just like thousands of other Palestinians injured and in urgent need of medical treatment abroad. This is Hind al-Khudari, Al Jazeera, Al Zawaida, Gaza, Palestine.
Brojno stanovništvo gladuje u Gazi. More im je jedini izvor hrane, no ribari riskiraju život odlazeći na pučinu. Mnogi su ubijeni u izraelskim napadima, a čamci su im uništeni. Uprkos tome pronalaze načine da nastave loviti.
Palestinski ribari u Gazi koriste sve što im je na raspolaganju da bi izašli na more. Ova stara vrata improvizovani su čamac. Potreba ih je primorala da se snalaze.
اليوم نستخدم في الصيد لظل ظروف الحرب هذه انه زي ما انتم شايفين لا ضل مركبه ولا ضل شبكه ولا ضل شيء فلجأنا احنا كصيادين نستخدم القفص والحاجات البدائيه جدا انه حيث نصيد عليها السمك.
Ribari kažu da izraelske snage napadaju sve što odmakne iz luke. Uprkos opasnosti čine ono što je potrebno.
خطوط الصيد اللي هو الطراد او هو الدبوره يعني وانت مغرب على باب المينا وانت بتطلع من باب المينا تلاقيه بيصطخ عليك ترمي قدايف عشوائيه ما بتعرفش ايش تسوي يعني من اول الحرب لحتى الان وصل 30 شهيد بس عن طريق البحر.
U Gazu stižu veoma male količine pomoći. Pronalaženje hrane ovdje je ključno za život. No, izlazak na more je rizik, a nije sigurno ni na obali.
يعني قصة الخطر ما خطر موجود يعني قبل يومين هاي العريشتنا وهي عريشة أصحابنا جيراننا يعني هم قاعدين بربطوا في الشبك ضربتهم صاروخ زناني من هنا نزل الصاروخ هيات دم شهيد كان قاعد على الكرسي وهيات الدم موجود على الأرض.
Na kraju dana skroman ulov. Zbog njega je vrijedilo otići na ovaj put. No vratiti se živ važnije je od odlaska za boljim ulovom.
Many Palestinians take their chances on the sea. Although they can't go far, the Israeli military has made it virtually impossible for Gaza's fishermen to enter their waters. In search of food they desperately need, they try to return with at least some fish. Yet, most often, it's barely enough to feed themselves and their families.
Očajna situacija natjerala je ljude da budu domišljati. Čak i bez čamaca, ribari u Gazi nalaze način da prežive.
Organizacije za ljudska prava kažu da je širom svijeta porastao broj migranata i azilanata. Oni uglavnom bježe od ratova, nasilja, siromaštva, progona, te pokušavaju stići do država poput SAD-a i Kanade. Mnogima je Brazil polazna tačka za ilegalni ulazak u te zemlje. Iz policije Brazila kažu da ovu državu koriste kriminalne organizacije kao novu krijumčarsku rutu. Zato je Brazil uveo nova pravila ograničavajući ulazak putnika koji su koristili politiku bezviznog tranzita te zemlje. Monika Janakijev ima detalje iz Rio de Janeira.
Više od 400 migranata danima čeka na međunarodnom aerodromu u Sao Paulu na dozvolu za ulazak u Brazil, kao izbjeglice i azilanti. Iz vlade kažu da mnogi međunarodni putnici koriste Brazil kao tranzitnu tačku preko koje konačno uspijevaju doći do SAD-a ili Kanade. Brazilske vlasti će odobriti ulazak ovoj grupi, ali pooštravaju pravila kako bi smanjili broj budućih dolazaka.
Só que só 1% das pessoas que aplicaram para o refúgio dão seguimento ao pedido de refúgio mesmo. Porque o que elas querem de fato é usar o Brasil como passagem.
Brazil nije zahtijevao tranzitne vize putnicima koji koriste brazilski aerodrom kao usputnu stanicu. Međutim, proteklih godina sve je više putnika koji biraju ostati u Brazilu umjesto ukrcavanja na povezani let.
elas decidem ficar, elas perdem no voo conexão escala e elas decidem ficar e elas aplicam para o refúgio. E para o CONARE, que é o Comitê Nacional dos Refugiados.
Većina azilanata u Brazilu dolazi iz susjednih zemalja kao što su Venezuela i Kuba, no to se u posljednje vrijeme mijenja.
A sudden increase of asylum seekers coming from Asia raised red flags. The vast majority of those requesting refugee status at the São Paulo International Airport are from Vietnam, India and Nepal.
Prema novim pravilima koja su nedavno stupila na snagu, stranim putnicima bez brazilske vize više neće biti dozvoljeno da ostanu u Brazilu. Morat će ili nastaviti putovanje do krajnjeg odredišta ili se vratiti u državu porijekla. Ove mjere, međutim, neki smatraju lošim.
Nosso posicionamento, porém, é que os migrantes, neste caso, são vítimas. E o que a gente deve fazer? Atacar os criminosos pelos meios corretos de investigação criminal, processo penal e assim por diante, e não impedindo um instituto tão importante quanto é o Instituto do Refúgio.
Organizacije za ljudska prava kažu da je širom svijeta porastao broj migranata i azilanata, ali sve dok se više pažnje ne usmjeri uzrocima poput nasilja, siromaštva i političkog ili vjerskog progona, mjere poput ovih koje je upravo uveo Brazil neće unijeti velike promjene.
Gotovo 2 miliona ljudi iz Filipina radi izvan svoje države, šaljući novac porodicama kod kuće. Ali nisu rijetki slučajevi njihovog iskorištavanja i zloupotrebe. Takvi su zabilježeni u Seulu, te iz tog razloga vlasti na Filipinima uvode strožije propise u programu za radnike migrante u Južnoj Koreji. Bilo izvještava iz Manile.
Miguel je prije 2 godine otišao u Južnu Koreju kako bi radio na farmi, očekujući da će zarađivati 3 puta više od onoga što zarađuje na Filipinima. Posao je oglašavan u okviru programa za privremene radnike između vlasti njegovog rodnog grada i južnokorejskog grada, a uz pomoć nezavisnog posrednika. Miguelu je sve zvučalo legitimno, dok nije stigao u Južnu Koreju.
Nung sumahod na kami doon, sumahod kami, pero hindi kami yung nag-withdraw ng sahod namin. Hindi namin nahawakan yung passbook namin kasi daw mahirap ang mag...
A kada se povrijedio na poslu, Miguel kaže da mu je posrednik medicinske troškove oduzeo od bonusa, iako mu je poslodavac rekao da su pokriveni osiguranjem.
Miguel filed a complaint with the national government's Migrant Workers Department as soon as he returned to the Philippines. The agency has received more than 100 complaints under the Seasonal Farmers Program since 2022. It's now banned brokers and requires local authorities to coordinate directly with the national government before sending workers to South Korea.
Planiran je i bilateralni sporazum koji ima za cilj potpuno eliminisati aranžmane između gradova.
We had around 60 labor complaints that had been addressed by the Korean authorities in terms of resolving the labor situation on the ground. Here in the Philippines, we filed cases of illegal recruitment against 58 individuals.
Uprkos naporima da se stane na kraj eksploataciji, organizacije za radnička prava kažu da još ima nezakonitih slučajeva, jer neke lokalne vlade nastavljaju održavati sastanke kako bi orijentisale ljude na privremene poljoprivredne radove u Južnoj Koreji.
We actually report them to the DMW that why is this local government continuing to do orientation when there is a moratorium, and why is there a presence of a broker, like a South Korean broker, speaking to the community, promising them jobs.
Uprkos svom iskustvu, Miguel i dalje priželjkuje rad u Južnoj Koreji u okviru istog programa i pored uvjeta koje je opisao. Zato je od Al Jazeere tražio da sakrijemo njegov identitet. Ostanak na Filipinima, tvrdi, za njegovu porodicu znači život u siromaštvu.
Na kraju smo još jedne emisije Al Jazeera Svijet. Potražite nas na web stranici kao i na YouTube kanalu. Do gledanja.